Perfect. All right, people. What's going on? My name is Tim Black. Welcome back to the Tim Black Show. Thought I'd jump in real quick and do an autopsy, a sort of a breakdown on what happened with Jamaal Bowman's race out there in New York 16th District. You know, we've been covering on this channel, and we went into depth a little bit, and I had an opinion about a very strong opinion based on what I was able to uncover about the race. Well, now we know what the results are. Jamaal Bowman has lost his seat. So let's go. Let's get into it.
Since the polls closed in New York's primary races tonight, and already we have a projected winner in the most expensive House primary race in American history, where Westchester County Executive George Latimer has been attempting to unseat incumbent Congressman and Progressive Squad member Jamaal Bowman. NBC News can now project George Latimer as the projected winner. Steve, what can you tell us about the numbers and how they may have changed since we talked to you about this just a second ago?
Yeah, we were just talking a minute ago about the basic divide in this district between the much smaller in terms of population slice of the Bronx that's in it. That's where Jamaal Bowman is getting about 84% of the vote right now. But the vast majority of this district is up here in Westchester County, suburbs of New York City, some small cities in here as well. And this is where George Latimer is the county executive. And we said with about a third of the vote in, Latimer was running very well overall in the county, and Bowman was falling far short of numbers he had reached in this county in the 2022 primary. And so basically what happened in the last 5 minutes here, I think, since I was on, is this. In Westchester, if you recall, we only had about 35 to 40% of the vote in. Now basically half the vote is in Westchester County. And what we've seen and what you can see here, if you were watching closely in the last segment, these numbers haven't changed. So this is kind of locking in right now, this Latimer advantage over Bowman. It's spread out geographically here. It's a consistent pattern basically everywhere where Bowman, everywhere in this district, Bowman is running short, well short, double-digit support, short in many cases of where he fared in the 2022 primary. And so it's consistent enough. There's enough vote in. And frankly, there's enough vote left now, given this trend, that you can expect Latimer to add to his margin here as more Westchester comes in, that you can look at the district and say, Bowman's not getting many more votes out of the Bronx. Latimer is out of Westchester County. Latimer already is ahead by almost 5,000 votes, 10 points district-wide. And so now, as we inch over the 50% mark district-wide, NBC projects that George Latimer has defeated incumbent Representative Jamaal Bowman. It will make Bowman the third House member to lose a primary, pending that Bob Good result in Virginia, the third House member to lose a primary this cycle.
Okay. So you saw the numbers. You saw what happened there. Westchester and the power of George Latimer, the guy who was sitting on his couch in his underwear when he got the phone call from AIPAC that he should come out if he wants to get back in. Come on out and run against this guy, Jamaal Bowman, who we don't like. And Latimer looked at his wife and said, baby, get me my pants. I'll go out there and stick it to this black guy out here talking smack about the Jewish community, and that's what did it. At least that's the narrative. And I was very comfortable to go along with that narrative, and I think it's only half the story, though. I think there's more to this story. Originally, I was looking at the demographics wrong, because I hear Jamaal talk about the Bronx a lot. He may have taught school in the Bronx, but Westchester County is really the county in which decides who makes it in Congress, who gets elected and who gets kicked out, who gets their walking papers. It's not just the Bronx. I think it's a fallacy that he ran on that. And as much as he talked about Wu-Tang and his bold rhetoric, I just assumed he was in a majority black district, but he's not. In fact, I think there was more Jewish folks in his district than black folks. Here goes the demographic breakdown of the district. 40% white, 19% black, 6% Asian, 29% Hispanic. In fact, for all the bravado, my brother, you was on thin ice with these folks. That was making a little bit more sense. Add that to the AIPAC money. Add that to the away games. Well, let's put a finer point on it, because I know some people are saying, Tim Black, come on, man. Get Jamaal some break. Give him a break. Why are you being so hard on the brother? I mean, it's not about me being hard on the brother. It's about me looking at it for what it is, okay? Here goes a deeper analysis into what happened.
Now for the analysis, former Democratic congressman from New York, Max Rose, and former GOP congressman from Pennsylvania and senior advisor at, quote, Our Republican Legacy, Charlie Dent. Gentlemen, good to have you. Let's continue on with Bowman for a second, Max. And some people have said that Bowman is committing purposefully. It seems like he's purposefully committing political suicide. He's alienated AIPAC, fine. It's conservative, and there are a lot of Jews who don't stand with AIPAC at all. But he's also blown off or thrown off J Street, which was a group that he was affiliated with, that he was supported by in his last race. And J Street is a more liberal Jewish organization. They hosted him on a trip to Israel where his views about the conflict with Palestinians were solidified. And people who say, you're representing a district that includes such a big Jewish population, you can't blow off both of those groups. It's political suicide.
Sure. Yeah, look, it's pretty obvious. And he's pretty cooked in this race. For the very reason that, you can not vote your district to a certain extent as an elected official. You can push your district to be more progressive or more conservative. But what you've seen from him is two things which together have produced a pretty bad cocktail. One is that he has not voted his district really to the extreme, particularly on the issue of Israel. But the other is that he's come off to his electorate as fundamentally unserious and actually anti-President Biden at certain moments, right? He voted against the infrastructure bill, for instance, a signature bill of the president's. And he also pulled the fire alarm, which symbolically has just been pretty politically harmful to him. And that's why you see so much of this money pouring in, because they do see him to be so especially vulnerable. It's very rare to see a successful primary from the middle, not from the left.
And Latimer has had quite a few missteps himself. I mean, he's been accused of racism. Some of the things he says have been questionable. He's also said something very unpopular, which is that the wealthy should not be taxed anymore. Broadly, the American public doesn't support that. They want the wealthy to be taxed more. But I wonder, consequentially, more broadly speaking than just this one race, if Jamaal Bowman is to lose, does that strike at progressive Democratic politics? Does it strike at the squad? Summer Lee won. She beat back her more moderate challenger in Pennsylvania. Does this matter in a big way?
Not at all. And I think that anyone who thinks that it does is going to waste a hell of a lot of money.
There are a lot of people who think that it does.
I promise you, look, at AOC, for instance, and her and I have some political differences. We've known each other for a long time. AIPAC could spend $20 million in AOC's district and she'd win by 15, 20 points because she hasn't made the same mistakes Jamaal Bowman has. I think it's one of the reasons why you don't see really an outpouring of other elected officials coming out there and standing with him. You have some who are definitely
some big names. You have Bernie Sanders. You have the entire squad.
You absolutely have some big names, but you don't see necessarily that same outpouring. So I don't see this, truly, I don't see this as an indictment of the strength of progressive politicians. What I do is I see it as an indictment of his ability to kind of hold a political majority in the Democratic primary in this one very singular place.
Is it an indictment maybe of the extremes to which some progressive Democrats are going on the subject of Israel, likening all Jews to the Israeli government, saying that Zionism is fundamentally wrong, calling Israel a settler colonial state?
Well, so first of all, keep in mind this district is a very Jewish district, right?
I know.
It's one of the most
that's why people are thinking that he's committing political suicide.
It's one of the most Jewish districts in the nation, and some of his, if you go back to his original primary where he won, right, where he unseated someone, part of his strength was actually liberal Jews who were moving over. That's how he built that winning coalition.
Liberal Jews who don't fundamentally support Israel on all matters, who support the right to exist, but they're not in line with Benjamin Netanyahu.
You're totally right. That's actually probably the base of J Street in so many ways. I think that if he had just antagonized kind of that core, more conservative AIPAC base, he might have had a competitive primary, but it wouldn't look as poorly as it does now. I think when he veered into really assaulting Israel's right to exist as a Jewish democracy and, making this really horrible comparison between what Hamas did on October 7th and what Israel has continued to do, that didn't spell well amongst really the vast majority of Jews in his district.
Yeah. Who's this guy? Hey, folks, let's be real clear here, man. This guy right here, he's just repeating the talking points at AIPAC. Jamaal Bowman lost in a large amount due to money. Yeah, of course, there are things he could have did better. Obviously, there are things you can always do better. In retrospect, yeah, maybe he shouldn't have pulled that fire alarm. But are we really sitting up here talking about a fire alarm, Johnson? Is that really that much of a big deal? I mean, come on, even if you pull it in a university or in a school, would you get a detention? No one was hurt. Nothing happened. Now, that's just an excuse to say, we got to get rid of this guy. And by the way, there's a lot of money coming in. And by the way, smear tactics work. And by the way, carpet bombing his district with $15 million. Listen, folks, more money. I don't care who you are, right? I don't care who you are, what office you're running for, that you're running for, whether it's dog catcher, mayor, or Congress, or a local state seat. If more money is spent against you in the history of people spending money against an opponent, and you are Jamaal Bowman, a black guy in a white district who just dumped on a large constituency being of the Jewish community, and if those smear attacks, right, drive a further wedge between you and those constituents, and you got a guy getting off the bench who's favorable in the epicenter of that hub, or that political hub, where the votes that you need gotta come from. Let me tell you something. I don't care if you are, bar you being Jesus Christ himself, you would be toast. You'd have to work some hellified miracles to pull that thing off. So, yeah, maybe you don't pull the fire alarm. But you know that now, you didn't know that then. Was it silly? Yes. But that ain't what happened. He can always scratch that off as being passionate, as whatever, right? I would have rather he leaned into it and said, yeah, I did it. I was desperate. I got caught up. I was emotional. I was trying to support this initiative that I think is very important. It's going to save lives. It's very important that we get this done. And I shouldn't have done it, but I did it. And it was wrong. Instead of denying it and don't know what a fire alarm is, all that. See, that just dragged it on and made it. But see, I'm not a politician. I'm just Tim Black. When I get things wrong, I just got to come out and say I got things wrong. But this narrative that they're trying to sell us with, that if Jamaal just did a couple things different, nah. If AIPAC would have left their nose out of it, there's no George Latimer running. George Latimer does not get enough steam to oust Jamaal Bowman. And let me just for the record say, I disagree with some things that Jamaal Bowman did, obviously, but Jamaal Bowman never compared all Jewish folks to all Jewish folks or Zionists. He never did that. He never said that Israel doesn't have a right to exist. That's all the smear campaign. This guy talking is actually reading from the smear information that's coming from AIPAC themselves, because he never said that. In fact, it was the opposite of what he was saying, okay? He went off script a little bit here and there, but basically, he was saying what you hear most people say online about this issue. Babies are dying, ceasefire, they're bombing schools, they're bombing hospitals, the food's not getting in. This is a genocide, and that's what did it. That's all it took. He got on the wrong side of a very powerful organization. And let's also, guys, you also need to know that a lot of the Democrats did not come out for Jamaal Bowman. Yeah, AOC came out and Bernie Sanders came out, Ayanna Pressley and Cori Bush, all of which, except for Bernie Sanders, and I think AOC is fine. But Cori Bush may be the next to go, man. This is serious business. Money talks. From what I hear, Cori Bush is down by 20 points. But you know who did not come out for Bowman? Democrats, House Democrats, the regular New York power broking Democrats. Hakeem Jeffries gave him his support on paper, but he didn't come out and testify for him. He didn't come out and stump for him. And now Hillary Clinton, of all people, gets to take a victory lap. She gets to take a victory lap as if she did something when she didn't do a damn thing. Yeah, of course, there are things that Jamaal did that were not, that didn't help his case. But at that point, it was pure, utter frustration, anger, some resentment, yes. I mean, look at the guy. This is a guy ticked off.
We're not gonna show fucking AIPAC the power of the motherfucking South Bronx. People ask me why I got a foul mouth. What am I supposed to do? You coming after me. You coming after my family.
I don't think that helped him with the conservative liberal base in Westchester County. So they showed him the MNF and power of AIPAC. And by the way, when he did this speech last weekend, they had already spent almost $15 million. They were just putting the cherry on top at that point. It was already a wrap. Death threats, support drying up, and the handwriting was on the wall in blood, folks. So, yeah, there's some things Jamaal could have did differently. Maybe he doesn't give this speech. But it was already a wrap when he did this. So, of course, we got cornballs making it about this, making it about colorful language. Meanwhile, those same people support Trump, and they love when Trump uses colorful language. They can't get enough of it. So, yeah, stop being hypocrites. Stop being hypocrites. The problem is the Jamaal base that he needs, they weren't responding to it at this point. With all the carpet bombing, with all the negative smears, all the advertising that was against Jamaal Bowman, he was put in that position, and it was what it was. Here goes a little bit of Jamaal Bowman's concession speech. In fact, there was only one place I could find more than a minute of it. But this kind of says it all. It kind of tells you a little bit about how Jamaal Bowman's feeling about how things went.
Number one, it's coming. Why you mess it up, yo? Why you mess it up?
I think Jamaal's talking to himself here. Yeah, Jamaal, why you mess it up? Why you mess it up? Why'd you step out here and choose to be so progressive against AIPAC, knowing you black in a white district where you are only 19% black, 40% white and Jewish, Hispanics 30%. Come on, Johnson, and you're running against a guy who was a county executive and who doesn't want to tax the rich. I mean, this guy actually, Latimer's running on, hey, rich people, in Westchester, you good. We shouldn't be taxing rich people. We should tax the poor. That's his campaign message. That's a guy with no core. That's a guy with he's willing, he said, in a district where Jamaal Bowman is the third, blacks make up a third, 20% of the population. Latimer was willing to go in front of cameras and say, Jamaal Bowman has a ethnic advantage. They said Jamaal Bowman had an ethnic advantage. They ran on Latimer ran on reverse racism in a Democratic primary against a black guy. And he said that the black guy was divisive. And Jamaal wasn't even running on anything black. I criticized Jamaal for not bringing up more black issues in the district. There were no black people, basically. I mean, there's some black people, but Hispanics outnumber him. And whites outnumber him 2-1. So, and Jewish is very strong and very, very united in that section. And they're the ones who elected him the first time. So this Palestinian issue, this Gaza war, this genocide is a problem. Because it's to some, it seems, even the well-intentioned Jewish community, the ones that voted for Jamaal, that put him in office, voted for Latimer to get him out of office. Okay. And not to mention, Jamaal went on a lot of different outlets. I was surprised. I saw him on Stephen Colbert's show. I saw him go on a number of outlets, mainstream stuff, man. I'd like to see if Cori Bush gets the same treatment. I'd like to see if Ayanna Pressley gets the same treatment, because they gonna need it. Here goes Jamaal Bowman on The View.
Israel is a criticism of Benjamin Netanyahu, who's been engaged in what the ICJ has called a plausible genocide of the civilians in Gaza. That is what I'm criticizing. We want peace. We want a two-state solution, and we want to do everything in our power to keep the people of Israel safe and secure and the people of Palestine safe and secure.
Now, you visited the West Bank in
Yes.
2021, and you called it a transformational moment. Looking back at that trip to what is happening now in Gaza, I'm sure it doesn't look anything like it. Are you more or less hopeful for this two-state solution that you have advocated for quite some time?
I'm always hopeful because I'm an optimistic person, but when I was there, you could feel the weight of the occupation like on your shoulders. The land that is supposed to be Palestinian land, the 1967 borders, have been settled upon by 700,000 settlers. So I don't know how we're going to roll that back to create a Palestinian state. And even I, as a member of Congress, was stopped at certain checkpoints, and I couldn't get through because I didn't have the right paperwork to get through. And so always hopeful, always pushing. The U.S. has to do a lot more in terms of policy, but also in terms of money. We need to secure the safety and self-determination of both peoples, the people of Israel and the people of Palestine.
And they still didn't like what he had to say. They still did not like what Jamaal Bowman had to say, even though I don't think he said anything that was all that detrimental. I mean, he wasn't talking that radical here. In fact, he was very calm and very composed. He didn't roll up his sleeves or yell or curse or pull a fire alarm or nothing, and it still didn't make a difference. And this is The View. A lot of little old white ladies watch The View. It's the #1 daytime show in America. People have been tuning into this thing for 15 years. It is a staple. And they allowed him to come on, and it still didn't move the needle. In fact, the video is still sitting at only 60,000 views on the tube, on YouTube, on the internet. That's crazy. So there was no push behind this, man. I'm trying to tell you that that's why I said initially that if you're going to go out, once you go out on a black issue, go out on a black issue. But Jamaal Bowman knows his district better than I do. And Jamaal Bowman is saying, hey, he's not done with politics. He's going to run for another seat. There are a lot of open seats, and he raised some money. He was thanking the Muslim community and how much they supported him, because without them, this would not have been much of a race. If you think this was bad, I mean, the numbers say it all. What are the numbers? Here we go. Latimer ended up with 44% of the vote. I'm sorry, 44,000 votes to 31,000 votes with a 58-41 margin. That is what we call a butt kicking. He lost by almost 20 points. It wasn't even close. I wish I had more to say about it. I wish there was a way to make people feel better about it if you're a supporter of Jamaal Bowman. All I can tell you is, yeah, progressive politics hasn't been doing much work lately. This is the one issue that they've been standing up on, and it's going to cost them. So where is the support for it? I see online and on Twitter and on TikTok, there's a lot of activity of support. Where was the support? Looking closer at this issue, yes. If it was me, I would have rather go out riding on black issues if I got to go out. We'll make a monument to you, Jamaal. But what are they going to do? What are the Palestinian folks going to do for Jamaal that he's lost his seat after standing up? So don't tell me it was something else that got Jamaal pushed out of this race. Nah, there wasn't anything else he did. It wasn't a fire alarm. It wasn't being boisterous. It wasn't raising his voice. He was doing that all along. He was already being loud. He talks loud. He was always down with the Wu-Tang. So what did it? It was the AIPAC money. That's what did it. And it could not be matched. It was not matched. So when people say, hey, man, why aren't more people standing up? Why aren't more people doing this? Why aren't more people doing that? Our system is so corrupt. It should be illegal for what AIPAC did. It should be illegal for an organization that supports a foreign government to be able to dump multiple millions. They say they want to dump $100 million into our races in order to oust any progressive candidates who call for a ceasefire. not for an individual, not for an individual, just for a ceasefire is enough to get you run out on a rail, Johnson. $15 million in one race. More money than ever spent. A record has been set to get rid of this black guy. So look, Jamaal Bowman, you can take one thing with you that you caused them to spend $15 million. They set a record trying to get rid of you, and they needed it. They needed to spend that money to get rid of you, because without it, I think you would have hung in there. That's it. That's all I got, guys. Let me know what you think about Jamaal Bowman's race. Perfection, there is no perfection, okay? Jamaal Bowman is not a born and bred 40-year, 20-year politician. He was a new congressperson, and it looks like he was living life kind of reckless. He was basically living on his arm. He was wearing his intentions and his emotions on his sleeve. And he was being real about what he felt. And perhaps when he went, and it's ironic that he went to Israel, he visited Palestine with the help of a Jewish organization in his district that paid for it. And while he was there, he saw some things. And he came back. And he had a different, maybe that's probably what changed his opinion. And his changing of his opinion, him going on the ground there, may have been what did it, which caused him to become more, I would say, radical, rebellious to the status quo as regards to Israel in Palestine. So the same people that sent him turned their backs on him when he honestly reported about what he saw in his viewpoint. So those people, are they really friends? Are they really friends? They know Jamaal wasn't anti-Semitic. J Street, which pulled their support from Jamaal, sent him to Palestine. He got a look. He came back and he said, I didn't like what I saw. It's an apartheid situation. And then they distanced themselves from him. They did not support him in his race. They left Jamaal Bowman twisting in the wind, as did Hakeem Jeffries, as did the power structure of the Democratic Party. They like George Latimer, a guy who's running on, once again, running on. Rich people shouldn't have to pay more taxes. Let's tax the poors. That's their guy. A guy that would say to a black man, the first ever black man to hold the congressional seat for that district, he's got a racial advantage. You can't make this up. That was his talking points. George Latimer's talking point was Jamaal Bowman's only in his seat because he's black. I think Jamaal Bowman's out of his seat because he had a heart for Palestinians. But hey, that's just my opinion. All right, guys, my name is Tim Black. I'll be back tonight with another Tim Black show. We do it every day except Saturday. Tune in, subscribe, turn on all notifications. What we saw is not indicative. I think, once again, like the commentator said, I believe that every squad member is going to go down on this, but it's going to be a nail biter for sure. And I'll be covering it. Peace. Oh, let me go to comments real quick. Anybody got a comment I need to read? What we got, people? Hakeem supports getting rid. Hakeem supports getting rid. I'm sorry. Hakeem supports getting rid of the squad. Yes, he does. Don't forget Mondier, Sellout Jones. Yeah, Mondier, Sellout Jones. He only added fuel to the fire that burned beneath Jamaal Bowman. Yeah, that was a backstabbing move. In fact, he endorsed George Latimer regardless of what George Latimer said, because Mondier did not want AIPAC coming from him. It was a self-preservation move, but still a backstab move, considering the fact that Jamaal Bowman did endorse Mondier to put him in office. And what does he do? How does he return the favor? He stabs him in the back. You know, Cain killed Abel. All right. Truth is best, but sometimes truth don't pay. And that's what it would have took. Trigger warning. It would have took money to defeat all the money being dumped in by AIPAC and their subsidiary organizations. That's what it would have took, brother. To say all of that, good guys don't always win just because they're good guys. It's going to take money. All right, I'm out of here. Thank you for tuning in, guys. Number love for you.